And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Buddhist practice, so simple, really, really simple. Just be nice. That's it. I mean, that is, to me, the most important thing of Buddhist teachings. You, like you, everybody sitting here, just be nice. The anger that you carry in your heart only hurts you. The anger that you carry in your heart only hurts you. And that's not an easy thing to sit with, because we're so used to just being angry and acting out from that place and fighting. The anger in your heart hurts you, and the practice is to be nice. And as I joked about coming in, everybody comes to this Buddhist stuff looking for answers. That's the answer. I mean, that is Buddhism in a nutshell. He taught for 45 years, this guy Siddhartha Gautama, and that's what he taught. Be kind to self and be kind to others. I guess I've expanded it from be nice, so sorry for adding more to your to-do list today. But that's the practice. This practice is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to fix the world. It's going to help you look at your anger and how you treat people. And most people don't want to do that. I've been in these worlds a long time now, and most people don't want to do that. They don't want to look at their anger, and they don't want to look at their ability to be kind or nasty to people. Because that puts 100% responsibility of this path and this practice on your shoulders. And most people don't like that. It's a lot easier to point fingers and blame and carry hatred. So, to me, this practice is never changed. And it's always an opportunity to practice every day. Looking at your anger and how you bring kindness into the world. If you're just coming in now, there are seats here. You don't have to go straight to the back. So, sorry to embarrass you all just coming in now. Dana's used to it. It was that dude I was worried about. I actually wasn't worried about you. Yeah. So, all right, with that, we're going to sit. We'll start with a meditation practice. For those who might be here for the first time, welcome. To those joining virtually, glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? You're just going to sit, you're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Do not expect anything. Do not try to think nothing. Do not try to have your mind go blank. It will continue to race just as much as it always does. I will say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought, or we wake you up because you've fallen asleep. So posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are in a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also trying to sit up straight if comfortable. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, again, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. Starting with your eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice, just sitting, breathing. With the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. Most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us in this room, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all you're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice, as I spoke about at the beginning. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. Meditation, Buddhist practice, it's a practice. Most people run to it when they have difficulty in their lives, thinking that that's going to be the Band-Aid that's going to fix everything. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. It helps you become aware of your mind and your life that is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, so you can then actually make changes in your life. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's simply sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in every moment. This is the Buddhist teachings on karma. Karma is not what goes around comes around. Karma is not people getting what they deserve or you getting what they deserve. Karma literally means action. It's generated 3 ways: body, speech, mind, thoughts, words, actions, deeds. It's what we bring into the world. Karma is not what we get, it's what we give. So this practice 100% is focused on what thoughts, what words, and what actions do we bring into the world. That never changes. Now most people have a hard time with that because they're too busy focused on everybody else's thoughts and words and actions. That's not this practice. This practice is an opportunity for you to focus on your thoughts, your words, and your actions. That's it. Once you stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone outside of you, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that, so much time focused on others. When you begin to focus on yourself, life gets a lot simpler. And then you can actually fight to create change. This is not a passive practice. Buddhist practice is not sitting back and pretending things aren't happening. It's actually keeping your eyes and ears and heart open and engaging in the world to bring more love and more kindness into the world, not more hatred and anger. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really prefer just to respond to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And to those joining virtually, again, welcome. Thanks for showing up. Feel free to say hello. There's a chat box on your screen. If you have any questions, you can put them there and I'll do my best to respond. So we'll open up to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with.
What, at the beginning, we said take refuge in the Sangha. What exactly is the Sangha? I read about it, but I'm still not clear what exactly it is.
Yeah. So the question, it's funny because Tuesday night I actually opened Tuesday night with this whole talk on it. But to kind of sum up, the question was, what is Sangha? At the beginning, we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And so to sum it up, first, when you hear the word refuge, just shout out, what does that word mean to you?
A place that is safe.
Safe, what else? Anybody?
Haven.
Haven.
Shelter.
Shelter. Protection. Anything else? Freedom. So whatever refuge means to you, right? Safety, comfort, protection, shelter, haven, peace, home, whatever. That's the first thing to understand, that we're taking refuge in these 3 things. In Buddhism, it's called the triple gem, often referred to as the 3 jewels. The first one is the Buddha. Now, this is very misleading because people often think that you're taking refuge in the Buddha himself, right? Siddhartha Gautama. Not going to help you much. You know why? He's dead. 2,500 years ago, he died. Ballpark, give or take a few years. He cannot help you. So what we're taking refuge in when we say I take refuge in the Buddha is what's called bodhicitta, or Buddha nature. Meaning that we all have bodhicitta. We all have the ability to awaken. The line after meditation where I always say we're no different than the Buddha was. The Buddha was a human. Woke up, went to the bathroom, ate, slept, roamed around. Right? Kind of like what we do. So if he could awaken and end his suffering, I think that's quite beautiful. Because that means that I'm no different than he is. That I also could end my suffering. The beauty around this teaching, which I didn't share on Tuesday, is that the Buddha said very clearly that we are all already awakened. And the example is simply, say it's a cloudy day outside. On a cloudy day, can you see the sun? No. But is it there? Why can't you see it? Because of the clouds. So the Buddhist teachings are addressing the clouds. Buddha nature, bodhicitta, that awakened being, the Buddha that the Buddha was, is there, just like the sun. But we have to look at the clouds. That is the second noble truth. The first one is life is filled with dukkha, suffering, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction. Things just not going our way. We don't like the way our sandwich was made. We don't like the way our latte was made. You get your car washed, there's a little something on it, and you freak out, like it matters. All these little things are dukkha that we experience every day of our lives. The second is the cause of our suffering. This is the clouds. Greed, anger, ignorance. So we practice to part the clouds. We overcome greed with generosity. We overcome anger with compassion. We overcome ignorance with wisdom. So that is the practice, to cultivate generosity, compassion, and wisdom so the clouds part and we awaken to that Buddha nature that's already there. So you're taking refuge in the idea that you too can suffer less. And to me, I've always found that beautiful, because if I had to rely on somebody else to end my suffering, that would suck. You spend your whole life looking for someone or someplace or something to bring you happiness. Sadly, that's how most people end up on this path. And here on a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, myself included. We often think that someone else, something else, someplace else, some other whatever is going to be the thing that's going to bring happiness. And so we spend our whole lives chasing, searching, running. And you'll get tired doing that. Everything you need to be fully happy is already preloaded right there with you. That's it. Right? So that's refuge in the Buddha. The second one is the Dharma. The Dharma is the teachings. Right? And this is basically the simple teachings of the Buddha. What he taught for 45 years, which, as he said, he just taught the same thing over and over and over again, 8,000 different ways or 80,000 different ways for 45 years. Those are the teachings: loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, right? Generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom. Any Pema Chodron, Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh book you open up, all those things in there, that is the Dharma. So that is the path. Those are the teachings we follow to recognize that we should stop causing our own suffering, right? And the third one is the Sangha. At the time of the Buddha, the Sangha was the monks, and then the nuns, and then kind of the larger lay community that would come together to practice. So the Sangha was the community of practitioners. Kind of modern day today, 2025, the Sangha is people coming together to practice meditation, talk about Buddhism. This is your Sangha. This is a Sangha, right? Sanghas are there to challenge you, to hold you accountable, to push you, to comfort you, right? So Sangha is really important. But for me, Sangha has never been about making sure everybody hears what they want to hear. Sangha is about cutting through a lot of that madness and getting to the root cause of why we suffer, which is our attachment to ourself and our ego that wants everything our way. I also like to look at Sanghas, right? Have you ever come in here and gotten into a fight with anyone? No. You ever screamed at anyone in here? You ever thrown shit at anyone in here? No. You ever done those things outside of here?
Try not to.
What's that?
I do my best not to.
No, that wasn't my question. See how this works?
I don't yell at people because I don't like how I feel.
So you've never yelled at anyone in your life? I've always wanted to meet someone who's never yelled at anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so you probably have. So let me ask this question again. Have you in your life ever yelled at someone, thrown something at someone, or what was the third thing I said? Whatever.
Express frustration verbally at someone. Yeah.
Man, you just have a hard time saying that you've yelled at someone. Why is that so difficult for you?
I guess because it's now I want to see myself as that kind of person who yells.
Okay, so you don't want to see yourself as someone who yells at someone, yet you're not even willing to admit the fact that you've yelled at someone in your entire life. That is so difficult. This practice is about cutting to the truth. The truth is there anyone in here, honestly, that has never yelled? I don't even need to ask that question. Everyone in this room has yelled at somebody in their life at some point in time. Why can't we admit that? Because we don't want to admit that we are also people who scream at people, that we are also people who are mean to people, that we are also people who disrespect people. We are also people who treat people like shit. That's what led us, many of us, to this path and practice. Once you begin to honestly see that in yourself, that's where you can create change. Otherwise, you're going to spend your entire life thinking everything is everyone else's fault. Sangha. Sangha does that. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
You said something at the very end. You said create change. And according to you, you used to be an angry young man.
Yeah.
And according to me, I used to be an angry old man. And something you said 4 years ago changed all that. I don't even remember what it was.
I know what it was. Yeah. Do you want me to remind you what it was? It was my favorite story, which for years I didn't know I had tied to you. So we're just going to pretend you didn't ask this question. So years ago, there was a guy who came in here. I told this story for years. I've told you this story, too, that I'm about to tell, about telling the story, and you forgot it all, but that's great. It's even better. So years ago, there was a guy who came in here. It was his first time here, and he was sitting right there on that cushion. And we finished our meditation and opened up to questions, and he looked up at me and he said, he shared something. You could just feel the anger in this person, right? I don't even know if he talked about anger, but he said something. You could just feel the anger. And his comment was, when I get home, I just want my wife to be as happy to see me as she is to see our dog. And everybody laughed. And I looked at this person, I said, you know what? That is probably never going to happen. And this person laughed. And I felt like for the first time, this person was able to laugh at something they were so angry at. And so while you might not remember it, I remember it crystal clear. And I talk about that a lot, as you've heard me say. I don't know if you might have disappeared for a few years after that, but then you eventually came back, or that person eventually came back. Yeah. And so I think that's, it's part of, for me, a bigger practice in that, kind of in lines with what I was just saying, is that it helps to look at, we get angry. We express things in unhealthy ways. Yet we spend so much time critiquing everybody else's way of doing that without recognizing how simple it is for us to be that way also. And so for me, at the start of your question was, I've shared growing up as an angry person, angry young man, and you shared that, you as an angry, old man, to use your words. Part of cutting through that anger was to be able to find humor in what an idiot I was. And that doesn't excuse or make up for anything that was done. But to be able to recognize why was the anger there, why was the frustration there, why was the sadness there, why was the depression there, to look at those things honestly and realize that we have, as I just said, we have control over changing all of that with our perception. It is absolutely our perception of reality. When we begin to realize that our perception of reality, actually the beauty of changing your perception of reality is you don't actually have to change your perception of reality, you just have to begin to recognize that your perception of reality is what? Skewed. Dare I say wrong? I don't want to, accuse you again 4 years later. But our perception of reality is just our perception. It doesn't mean it's going to go away. It doesn't mean it's going to change. It doesn't mean all of a sudden we're going to start agreeing with things we disagree with or liking things we don't like, right? The Thich Nhat Hanh teaching of all views are wrong. It doesn't mean, to me, when I heard that, it doesn't mean that my views were going to go away. But I had to recognize that I'm attached to my views and I think I'm right and therefore everybody else is wrong. And I'm going to spend my entire life fighting. Or realize that everybody else has their views. I don't have to like them. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to believe in them. But they're their views. So.
One last thing.
Yeah.
If in practice, what in your estimation is the best way to create lasting change?
Just keep showing up. I mean, the question was, in practice, what is the best way to create lasting change? To clarify, do you mean like lasting change in yourself?
Yeah.
You just got to keep showing up. If you stop eating food, you're eventually going to get really hungry and probably die. So, to me, the Dharma, the taking refuge in the Dharma, the teachings, which is bringing the teachings into life, and that's what I mean by practice, right? To me, practice isn't just bowing and chanting and putting on robes and lighting incense. Practice is, how do I bring the Dharma, the teachings, into everyday life? How do I practice generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom? How do I practice loving kindness and compassion in my life? That is practice. And so in Buddhism, they talk about the Dharma, the teachings being like medicine. And, if you've got a headache and you want 2 Advil and you stare at that bottle of Advil for weeks, your headache's not going away. So you got to take the medicine. And to me, that's what these teachings are, is it's medicine for the heart and the mind. So the best way is one day at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. You're just continuously practicing,
I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah, you've heard that a lot of places. Yeah. Which is fascinating coming from a guy who's here almost every day. So your problem is not how do I keep practicing, your problem is how do I find the patience I need. So you can ask that question next week. What else? Yeah, and then we'll go there. Yeah.
Well, would you address transfer of merit?
Transfer of merit, yeah. So at the end, can I come back to that question? What was that question back there first? There was a hand, yeah.
Regarding change, how could one need affect change in the world?
Yeah, by changing you.
Like, immigration and war and...
Yeah. Been a problem for thousands of years and going to be a problem for thousands of years. And at times throughout thousands of years, it's worse than others. Change yourself. I wanted to go there because I had a feeling this was kind of tied onto that. We spend so much time wanting to change others. And the best way to change others is to change yourselves. You ever done stuff to people you shouldn't have done? You ever yelled at people?
Yes.
I just wanted to get a yes out of somebody. Right? Now my ego feels better, right? And I knew you'd say yes, right? So, you ever done things to people you shouldn't have done?
Yes.
You ever denied people maybe something they should have had and you said no?
Yes.
Yeah. Keep changing. And again, for those who are brand new to Buddhist practice, I'm not suggesting the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh engaged Buddhism. He walked alongside Martin Luther King. He was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for his work as an engaged Buddhist, for his fight around social justice issues. But when he fought, he did not hate the people he was fighting against. You want to create change, try creating change with love and compassion in your heart. If you think other people are wrong, then love the people that you think are wrong. You want to create change? That's how. Nobody said this stuff was easy. But most people really don't want to change themselves because they just think everybody else is wrong. And I say that with all the love and respect in the world. We want to say, I'm good, they're wrong. Yep, I've changed. I've been doing this stuff for 3 months. Everybody else, now they need to change. Keep changing.
But practically speaking, withholding food for the starving children in Gaza is wrong.
So feed children. You change. You just missed everything I said because you're not willing to recognize that when you change, you can make change. It's so easy to just make excuses and point fingers. You want to feed people? Feed people. Not easy. You want to feed people? Feed people. Yeah.
So talk about transfer of merit.
Yeah.
So I hear that at the end of, like the food distribution downtown and here at the end. And if we're not doing things to rack up points and some
To win the Buddhist lottery for the best Buddhist.
Whatever. Then why is there a merit to transfer?
So, transfer of merit, keep in mind that Buddhism, while practiced in the West predominantly as a philosophy and way of life for 2,500 years, has also been a very heavy religious, faith-based practice. And they believe in rebirth or reincarnation or continuation of consciousness. And many schools of Buddhism believe, say in Pure Land Buddhism, for example, they believe in a pure land and being born into a place where there is no suffering. So the idea of transfer of merit, with all those things being said, is that as this consciousness leaves the body, right, it is still aware of what's going on. In Buddhism, and every tradition is different, but especially from the Tibetan school, they'll say that at some point in 49 days, the consciousness will be reborn on one of the 7 days leading up to 49 days. Also, various Buddhist traditions, when the body dies, that they won't touch the physical body for a period of time to allow the consciousness time and space to actually leave the body, right? So the idea of transfer of merit really comes ultimately from those schools of Buddhism where they're, to me, it's no different than I don't really say this to anyone around here, but let's say you were leaving the building and I would say, "Have a nice day, Dana. I'm wishing you well," as you walk out the door, and hoping if I say to you, "Have a nice day," maybe that will make you smile or be happy, as opposed to me saying, "Hey, go have a shitty day today." How would that make you feel? Not so good. Have a nice day feels a little better. Maybe you'll carry that with you. So the transfer of merit is recognizing that as we have done really good stuff, what we would call good stuff, you help people, you do good things. For me, constantly, the end of every practice is the transfer of merit, because you've cultivated the practice of compassion and wisdom. And then when you're done, yes, it's not for you. Again, these schools of Buddhism talk about the accumulation of merit. So it's almost like you're getting this merit from doing good stuff, but the merit isn't for you. You want to give that away. So it's like transferring think of it as like transferring well wishes.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to potentially literally figure out how this person who died is going to get your message, right? Because it's tough to go there unless you grew up in that culture and really believe in rebirth or reincarnation or continuation of consciousness. Unless you come from Buddhist schools where that's literally ingrained already in them. It's tough for the average Western person to just think that, yeah, when that person dies, they're going to hear my wishes. But that's ultimately where it comes from. So you're sending that merit to have a good rebirth, to be free from suffering, to have a healthy, if someone is ill, whatever it might be. That consciousness hears and feels and absorbs all of that to continue. No different than you leaving the temple to go on your day. Because really death, that's what it is. You're just leaving the temple to go on with your day. Same.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else?
I had a question right here. I was wondering, Thich Nhat Hanh, did he choose to go vegan to diminish suffering to the animals in the slaughterhouses?
Yeah.
Or did he do it, or he did?
No, go ahead. Sorry. I'm not saying I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
No, or was he just doing it for, I don't know, I think he was trying to help Vietnam during the war and all that, so maybe, I'm not exactly sure why he did it, but I guess maybe he's interpreting the teachings differently, I don't know.
So the question is around Thich Nhat Hanh and why he was vegan. I have no idea. I've never met him. I've never asked him. So I couldn't tell you why he was vegan. But what I can tell you is the teachings in Buddhism where the kind of this vegan, vegetarian thing comes from, and the debate that people often have, which is fascinating to me. Because I love how people justify their eating of meat or whatever it is by saying, well, the Dalai Lama eats meat. The Dalai Lama also does lots of incredible things that we don't do. So I would be careful on how we justify things, just first and foremost. But the teaching comes from when the Buddha was alive, and they would go begging for food. It's called an alms round. And they would go door to door, so to speak, and they would, one time a day, and if you go up to Metaphorist Monastery, they still live this practice every single day. So what the Buddha and the disciples would do is they would put their head down, they would go door to door with the bowl up, and whatever got put in it, they then sat down afterwards. They kind of, put all the food together and they split it up evenly, and they ate what was there. The teaching at that time from the Buddha was if there was meat or fish or any animal product in there, they would eat it under 3 conditions. If they didn't see it be killed, if they didn't hear it be killed, and if it wasn't killed specifically for them, then they would eat, right? That was what it was like at the time of the Buddha. Now, the teaching on the basic 5 precepts, right, to refrain from harming, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and intoxicants, the simple teaching of refrain from harming, that ties into the idea behind why many will choose to not consume any sort of animal products, because tremendous suffering occurred in order for us to have that steak on our plate, or that fish, or whatever it is that that you eat. Whenever I talk on this, it's because this ties into the precepts, I always like to add, I think it's really important that, I don't know, I'm just guessing, probably 70, 80% of the people in this room eat meat and eat fish. Probably half the people in this room drink alcohol, right? So it's very important that you understand that Buddhist practice, it's not about judging yourself. I always want people to understand that, like, anytime a question on precepts come up and I talk about them, very often you run the risk of people going home and feeling guilty while they sit there and eat their burger and drink their beer. You're going to drink your beer, drink your beer. You're going to eat your burger. But the practice is to understand that for that burger to exist, suffering existed. That's, to me, what the practice is about. And in the consuming of that, we are just continuing the cycle of harming and killing. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Years ago, somebody said that for them, fishing was very meditative. And then somebody else said, yeah, only if you don't hear the silent scream of the fish. So, yeah, understand that those, again, this is not, most of you know me, I'm not a preacher, lecturer. I'm not here to put guilt or shame on anybody. You've all been doing that enough to yourself your whole life. But be aware that when we consume those things, we are, in essence, taking part in that cycle of killing and suffering. So, yeah, what else? Oh, Leanne, thanks, Leanne. I see your message. Leanne says, thanks for taping these meetings so we can be there when we can't be at the temple. You are welcome. What else? Yeah.
So assuming no suffering occurred because of my beer, why no beer?
So the question was, assuming no suffering occurred from my beer, then why no beer? I didn't say no beer, first of all. I just want to put this into perspective here. So you've had one beer before, yeah? Did you do anything stupid after one beer? No. You ever had 10 beers? No. More liars. You two can sit together. You've never had 10 beers in your life?
Oh, all together? At one time?
Have you ever been drunk? Yes, all right.
It only takes 3.
Right. Well, that's why I changed the question, because I realized that when you didn't get to 10, it probably didn't take you. So, all right. Setting that aside, yes, you've been drunk. So one beer, you never done anything stupid, probably, right? When you've been drunk, you done things stupid? Does that answer your question? So the suffering didn't occur, right? Somebody asked my master, it was a precept ceremony, and someone asked about, this was in Taiwan, and they were coming from, a specific Asian culture where they would, at the end of business meals, or business deals, they would do business over dinner, and when they closed the deal, whatever it was, they would all kind of hold the cup up and, toast to it to take a drink. And so his question was around, well, if I'm taking these precepts that to say refrain from intoxicants, which is anything that alters the state of mind, his question was around, can I still, take that drink? And the master said, when you close the deal, raise the cup, take the drink, and set the cup down. Just don't pick it back up, right? So the problem is not the harm that does or does not come from that one beer. The question is two things. One, and I love, right, twice a year I do this with college kids. So imagine, 50 San Diego State college students having a 2-hour discussion around refraining from lying, harming, stealing, sexual misconduct, and intoxicants, right? That pretty much sums up their college existence. And we spend 2 hours. What I always say to them, which I share the same thing here, is the problem is not in having that beer. Or for majority of the people who go home and have a glass of wine at night to whatever. The question I throw out to them is, why do you do it? Could you not do it? And is it something you want to do the rest of your life? That is the question I ask when I'm working with college kids, that I share with non-college kids as well. Why do we do it? Could we not do it? And do we want to do it the rest of our life? And I think the answer, the real question is in each individual's answer to that. Not the Buddhist says, don't do this. Right? The idea behind the precepts wasn't to restrict us or put rules on us. Right? The ideas behind the precepts, those who haven't heard this before, you drive, yes? And when you come to a red light, what do? You stop. Why? Why do you stop?
Can I have 2 reasons?
Sure, you can have as many.
The law and harming myself or others.
The law, so you stop at a red light because of the law and harming self or others. Do you have to stop at the red light? No, you could run through the red light. And what could happen if you run through the red light? You could harm someone, right? You could get away with it. For the sake of time, I'll answer most of these questions that I've asked for 20 years, right? So you could be just fine. But we stop at a red light for safety. It keeps us safe, it keeps others safe, right? For the most part. The precepts are the same way. They're not rules that you're a bad person. If you go to your Buddhist class and then go have lunch and have a beer and a burger, right? You're not a bad person for doing that. But understanding that, I don't know about you, but any time that I lied, stole, sexual misconduct, killed, or drank or smoked a bunch of stuff, nothing good happened from it. You know? So I think that's really what the teaching is about. Yeah. Anything else before we close? Do one more. Yeah.
Mine's more of a comment.
Yeah.
The car alarm.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so grateful. I hope that car is fine and no one's lost anything. I have been more diligent with my practice lately, and I have a new house going up next to where I live, and it's been hard. And that today I was able to breathe through it. And you said when you were answering the first question, you know, the noise of the madness, right? And there's so much right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, that's why I practice. Like, I'm not perfect every day, but I got deeper and I was able to transcend it. And that's why they call it a practice.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, that's great. And for those who didn't hear it, just to paraphrase, and I'll close with this thought. And I typically don't bring them up, but I'm always glad when somebody does bring those things up because it gives me an opportunity to talk about what is one of my favorite things, which is when car alarms go off, when phones ring, when phones drop, all these things that happen in a space that on the surface many might think are not good for meditation. That is the purpose. That is the practice, is to have all those things happen and realize that car alarm going off is no different than your neighbor building a house, is no different than a phone that drops or rings. These are just things that happen. And it's our ability to be with it. But most of us don't have the ability, again, going back to some of the heavier questions of today that are hard, nearly impossible to be with. Yet, can you even sit with a car alarm going off for 3 minutes? If you can't sit with a car alarm going off for 3 minutes, then imagine what it's going to be like trying to deal with the rest of the chaos in your life, right? So yes, those are moments of practice. And I also love things like that because for, 5 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever it is, finally, everybody stopped thinking about the shit they're normally thinking about, and they're all just thinking about the car alarm. So to me, the car alarm is an example, or the neighbor building the house is an example, or the phone's ringing is an example of the breath. The breath is always there. We don't always have the car alarm or the neighbor building the house, hopefully forever, right? Or the phones that ring that tend to annoy people. But they are opportunities to focus on one thing. The breath is always with us. So the breath is the thing to focus on. So no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what's going on in your life and in the world, you can come back to your breath so you can be at peace. So you can be calm, so you can be stable, so you can be strong. And if you want to go make change, then go make change. But if you're a freaking mess, you can't make change. It's that simple. That's why we practice. Cultivate yourself so you're not a mess. And with that, go make change. Otherwise, you're just more of a mess trying to create change in a world that's already a mess. So, yeah. All right, so I'm going to close on that. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Mark Miller and Stephen Hendricks during their time of rebirth. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, a few quick announcements before you all head out. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma Bum. We opened up this temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers. We're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night, different practices going on, led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. Every Thursday, 4:30, we do, I think, probably one of the best things around here. It's a food redistribution program. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals, also known as peanut butter and jelly, and we feed people who sleep on the street. So anytime you think your life sucks and you lack gratitude for all you have, go feed people who sleep on a sidewalk, and it tends to put things into perspective. If that doesn't work, keep coming back till it does. Other than that, I don't think anything out of the ordinary coming up. So thank you for being here. I wish you well. Have a good day.